It started with a smirk, a prank between friends, one human, one not. Anera, heiress of the ancient alien bloodline of Lumeria, had no intention to rewrite history that day. She was bored. Samuel, her earthborn companion, an amateur historian, was curious. That alone was dangerous. Inside the Lumerian sanctum, beneath chandeliers of crystallized starlight, rested her ancestor's armor mate in a time before Earth's first civilizations. Worthless now, or so they thought. Anera tossed him a dare, expecting nothing more than laughter. But when Samuel slipped it on, everything changed. The metal didn't resist, it welcomed him. Symbols awakened, walls trembled. Light poured from places that had long forgotten how to shine. Anera stared, frozen. That armor was bound to Lumerian royal blood, and Samuel was very much human. Or was he? She had planned a joke, and now he stood glowing in the armor of kings, whispering a language no human should understand. The joke was over. The universe had just begun to remember him. It had been 10 years since the Lumerians revealed themselves, enigmatic beings of light, wisdom, and unmatched technology. They didn't arrive with warships or ultimatums, no grand invasion, no promises either, just a simple transmission decoded by Earth's top scientists. We are already here, and they had lived among humans in disguise for decades, maybe longer. With their presence made public, a new age dawned. Global tensions softened. Disease cures emerged. Cities rose in harmony with ecosystems. Lumerian influence changed everything. Yet some mysteries remained tightly sealed, locked in their floating sanctums and royal archives, guarded against beings who hadn't touched the stars. But Samuel always felt different. Not in the obvious way. He wasn't rich, nor famous, and certainly not connected to alien royalty. He was a humble historian, one of the first humans granted access to the great Lumerian library in the floating city of Velorai. Obsessed with forgotten civilizations and cosmic myths, he wandered halls carved from stone that sang when brushed. By moonlight there, he met her Anera, daughter of the Star Matron, keeper of ancient truths, rebellious, unpredictable, and glaringly different from her rigid ceremonial people. To Anera, Earth was messy, but fun. Samuel was her guide into everything. Chaotic, yet charming, as she called it, music festivals, pizza, thunderstorms, comic books. Her crystalline laughter echoed through Lumerian halls when Earth's chaotic creativity clashed with her reality. They became inseparable, opposites who shared something real. So when Anera discovered a sealed chamber hidden beneath the royal wing behind, twin statues of the first empress, and a dormant guardian crystal Shay didn't report it. She summoned Samuel, violet torches igniting with their breath. Before them stood a suit forged from obsidian dark alloy and inlaid with glowing teal runes, a ceremonial set used by her great-grandmother, a warlord turned peacemaker during the Great Rift War. It was beautiful, weightless, nearly forgotten. What does it do? Samuel asked. Nothing now. It's bonded to royal blood, Anera replied. It responds only to a lineage code. Think of it like a fingerprint in your genes. A pause, she tilted her head, grinning. Mischief gleamed in her emerald eyes. Try it on, she said, her voice daring. Samuel blinked. You just said it won't work. Exactly, she flashed a grin. Come on, I want to see a human fumble in ancient boots. Against his better judgment, he stepped forward. The moment his fingers brushed the armor, the torches flared. The air thickened. That silent throne room, undisturbed for centuries, pulsed with power. Metal shifted. Plates unlocked and hovered towards him like they recognized something. Samuel gasped, but couldn't move. The armor clicked into place along his torso, shoulders, arms, chest, like it had waited lifetimes for this moment. Glowing glyphs blazed across its surface. Runes that hadn't lit since the second sun collapse shimmered to life. And in his head, a voice he'd never heard before whispered a name long forgotten. His name, in the Lumerian tongue. Anera stumbled backward. That's not possible. The chamber trembled above them. The dormant guardian crystal cracked, emitting a pulse. Across the skies of Earth, far across the galaxy, something ancient stirred, and the stars whispered, "He has returned." The chandeliers swayed faintly, even though there was no wind. Not here. not in the royal hall of echoes, where time moved slower and history whispered from the walls. Anera stood barefoot on the obsidian floor, her long teal hair cascading like a waterfall of starlight against her Gothic ceremonial dress. She wasn't supposed to be there, and Samuel definitely wasn't invited. But rules weren't really her thing, and Samuel, he was always up for breaking them with her. He looked completely out of place. A simple human wrapped in curiosity, wearing a shirt with an old comic book logo, standing in a palace built by Stardust architects thousands of years ago. "This room, it's older than every building on Earth combined," he whispered. Anera smirked. "And yet, here we are, your sneakers squeaking on sacred floors." She walked ahead, her fingers tracing the glowing etchings on two massive statues guarding the entrance of a hidden vault. She said she wanted to show him something historically irresponsible, as she framed it with a wink. The vault doors slid open, not with a grin, but a whisper inside. Floating in a sea of cool blue light rested the armor. Fashioned from living metal, it glimmered like midnight under moonlight. Thin, glowing veins webbed across its sleek surface, ancient circuitry powered by energy that Earth scientists still argued didn't exist. Samuel stepped back instinctively. "Is that real?" Anera looked over her shoulder playfully. "It was my great-grandmother's Queen Seraphim of the 12th alignment. Wore it during the Siege of the Three Moons. It hasn't been touched in centuries, and it still works." "It shouldn't," she said, circling him. "Unless you're royalty? Or incredibly full of yourself." He raised an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting?" "I'm daring you," she cut in, eyes gleaming. "Try it on, for history, of course." Samuel hesitated. "This feels like the part in every movie where things go horribly wrong." "Exactly," she smiled wickedly. He rolled his eyes, then climbed up the dais in front of the armor's rest platform. Nervous, curious, cautious, one hand extended. The moment his skin touched the edge of a gauntlet, the room trembled. The floating pieces rearranged on their own, clicking into place around his body, one by one, chest, shoulders, legs, helmet. And yet, he didn't feel the weight, only energy, heat, memory. A strange hum echoed in his ears, and a flash of symbols lit up across the armor, symbols he couldn't recognize, but somehow understood. Anera's smirk vanished. She took a step forward, her voice unsure for the first time, "Sam." Then the suit pulsed with light, not artificial, not alien, primordial. The entire hall came to life. Murals on the walls shifted, the twin statues bowed. And from high above, a glass-like crystal embedded in the ceiling, cracked, sending a web of energy streaking toward the stars. Samuel's eyes flared open, no longer their usual color, but the same teal as the runes glowing across the Lumerian sky. Then, he spoke, no stutter, no thought, just pure instinct. Words in a language long lost to Earth. Anera stumbled backward. That language hasn't been spoken for over 40,000 cycles. Only royal guardians knew it. Samuel dropped to one knee as the armor locked in place, not in resonance, then silence. Anera's voice broke it. Soft, afraid. "What are you?" He looked up at her, confusion met with realization. "I don't know, but above Earth, far beyond human satellites, a beacon flickered alive, old, forgotten, and in the darkness between stars, something watched, something woke." At first, Samuel thought it was some kind of malfunction. The armor had locked onto him, pulsing with strange energy that made his bones feel like they were vibrating. He tried to pull it off, but each time he moved, it responded like a second. Skin, no. Like it was thinking with him. Anera stared in stunned silence. The color had drained from her face, her usual confidence replaced with something dangerously close to fear. "Say something," Samuel said, voice trembling. "Please. Tell me this is part of the joke." "This isn't a joke anymore," she whispered. The chamber's soft light turned harsh. The floating glyphs began orbiting him, spinning faster and faster, until a violent shockwave burst from the armor, shattering ancient artifacts scattered around the room. High above them, the colossal guardian crystal Munda groan of ancient energy and shot a beam of teal light straight through the gilded dome, piercing the clouds above Lumeria, reaching far beyond Earth's stratosphere. The signal had been sent. What was that?" Samuel asked, gasping as the energy rippled through his body. Anera didn't answer. Instead, she rushed to a nearby console, her hands moving quickly over holographic sigils, pulling up security walls and genetic identifiers. What she found made her voice catch in her throat. The armor shouldn't respond to humans, she said breathlessly. It's designed to reject all biometrics outside the Lumerian royal code. So why didn't it reject me? Samuel asked. Did it glitch? No. It accepted you. Not only accepted, you. She paused, turning toward him, wide-eyed. It activated its prime mode. That hasn't occurred since the days of the First Dominion. He stepped forward, energy flickering at his feet as the armor responded to even his smallest movements like liquid light. You activated a dead technology, she added. Something I've only seen in our legends. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the palace. Crimson lights raced across the walls. Ancient defense turrets emerged from their hidden alcoves. A crackling voice echoed in their heads via psychic relay tech. Unauthorized activation detected in Black Sanctum Vault. Guardian protocol initiated. Level Omega. Samuel paled. That sounds bad. Bad, Anera answered, teeth clenched. Sam, this is treason. You're wearing sacred royalty-bound relics without a genetic sealand somehow. The armor thinks you're more than royalty. If they don't find a way to explain this, they'll assume you hacked the system, or worse, that you're a threat to the Empire. The giant vault doors began closing automatically. We need to run. Run. We're in a floating palace. No time, Sam, she shouted, grabbing his hand. You've just made yourself the most wanted human on Earth and, possibly, the galaxy. Guards in shining obsidian armor charged around the corner, weapons raised, shouting commands in Lumerian by the stars. One gasped, the armor of Seraphim lives again. A leader stepped forward, eyes narrowed, scanning Samuel from head to toe. Stand down, surrender the foreigner. This tech is forbidden. Samuel raised his hands, but the armor reacted, projecting a shield instantly, deflecting a stun blast. It acted on its own. Fueled by intuition or defense instinct, the guards hesitated. Anera made a split-second decision. She hurled an EMP shock crystal onto the stone floor. Blinding white light exploded, then dragged Samuel through a collapsed corridor. You attacked the royal guard, he said, panicking as they stumbled down hidden stairs lit by flickering neon vines. I saved your life, dummy. That armor is going to get you disassembled if we don't find out why it bonded to you. As they disappeared into the ancient escape tunnels, Samuel turned to her and said what they were both thinking. This was supposed to be a joke. Anera answered without turning back, worst prank ever, as they escape. We catch a glimpse of a mysterious Lumerian figure watching the events unfold remotely, someone older, cloaked, with glowing eyes. So, it's begun, the figure says cryptically, disappearing into a dark hallway. Somewhere in deep space, ancient machines begin to stir. One sentence flashes across a dormant screen. In both Lumerian and Earth's oldest language, the armor has found its wielder. Darkness pressed in on them as they ran through the echoing emergency tunnels beneath the palace. Each step Samuel took echoed like a heartbeat not his own, but something older, something deeper. The armor around him pulsed with a dim glow, as if responding to unseen signals in the stone itself. I can feel things now, he said aloud, uncertain how else to explain it. Not just the room, memories, feelings. Like this hallway hates me for being here. Anera glanced at him. It doesn't hate you. It fears you. They emerged in a forgotten chamber. Far beneath Lumerian security nets, a small data vault carved directly into a living crystal. Interfaces blinked to life as Anera placed her hand on the main console. A spherical archive holoscreen opened, hovering mid-air. We don't have much time, but you need to see this. Samuel stepped forward, and the archive recognized him. No DNA scan, no voice prompt. It simply opened fully. Anera froze. Access without trigger codes. This tech only responds to the screen flickered, shifting to a buried archive tagged Genesis bloodlines classified from Council eyes. The file played. Ancient footage rolled hazy and surreal. Primitive earth before even the pyramid's lush forests glowing with bioluminescent trees. Tall beings descending on beams of starlight. They weren't Lumerians, not fully. They called themselves the Verucan, Anera whispered. Starwalkers, our ancestors. They visited Earth thousands of years ago, long before Lumeria was a kingdom, it was said. Some stayed behind. The footage showed something unbelievably. Verucan merging hands with a human female, their bodies surrounded by spiraling cosmic energy. DNA strands lit up like stars, intertwining. One day, the archive voice spoke in Lumerian. A child of two worlds shall rise, not of pure line, but forged in forgotten flesh. The armor will seek them, and when it does, the last lock will break. Samuel stepped back. Are you saying you're a descendant? A direct bloodline? Part human, part Verucan. That's why the armor recognized you, but my parents, they were both born on Earth. Nothing about this makes sense. Anera switched the archive to another scan. Samuel's current DNA structure, rendered in shimmering threads. Cross-sections blinked red and gold. There's something in you even Lumerian scanners can't explain. Hidden genetic layers, sealed. Behind your Earthborn DNA, it's not just alien. It's ancestral. Pre-civilization. We call it Starborn code. Suddenly, Samuel remembered the dreams. For years, he'd had vivid nightmares of stars falling, of alien voices calling, of standing on ancient steps before a blazing gold sky. He always thought it was just an overactive imagination. What if they weren't dreams? What if they were memories? I've felt this connection my whole life, he whispered. As a kid, I'd look at the stars and feel like I was supposed to go toward them. I thought I was crazy. You're not crazy, Anera said gently. You're remembering. Behind them, the vault shivered as pressure sensors detected movement above. They were being tracked, and Anera shut the archive. We have to leave now. But Samuel stood frozen. If this is true, then why me? Why now? What am I supposed to do? Anera looked into his eyes, the teal runes reflected in his pupils. Something cosmic engineered you for a purpose, maybe to unlock the past, maybe to protect the future. I don't know. She paused, then added, but I know this. The moment you put that armor on, our histories twisted together. Earth and Lumeria were never separate. They've always been connected through you. From the shadows, a hidden speaker came online, a voice neither of them expected. The boy is awake. Delay no longer. Bring him to me. Anera stiffened. That's the High Seer. Samuel clenched his fists. Friend or enemy? Neither, she said. He's something more dangerous. He's a believer. The screen behind them lit up one final time. Starborn subject confirmed. Project Reclamation Protocol unlocked. As the room collapsed into sparks and failing lights, Samuel turned to Anera. What did we just wake up? She looked toward the crumbling ceiling with dread, something older than truth. Night had settled across Lumeria. Not the kind of night Earth knew, but a deep, shimmering veil of violet clouds floating beneath glowing rings of crystal light. A strange, haunting silence filled the skies above the Capitol halls in the hovering skyship, just above Earth's orbit. Anera sat across from Samuel. Her thoughts tangled tighter than the stars outside. Inside the ship, everything was still. Too still. Samuel stared at the Earth through the curved obsidian window. His planet looked small, innocent. Blue oceans and white clouds. How could something inside him, born there, destabilize the politics of an alien race that had existed for tens of thousands of years? So let me get this straight, he said quietly. I'm not just a guy with good luck and a questionable sense of style. Now, I'm a weapon, a prophecy, a reason for royalty to panic. Anera didn't respond. At first, her eyes stayed on the glowing console as if the answer was encoded in the silence. Finally, she whispered, You're more than they can handle, and more than I was prepared for. Samuel turned to her. His armor still fused to his body hummed, faintly, like it was alive. Listening. Did you know? He asked. That I could activate it? No, she replied. I thought it would reject you. I thought we'd laugh about it, and maybe sneak out before royal security screamed treason. He ran a hand through his hair. Looks like we missed the laugh part. Their eyes met it. From two opposite worlds, one hiding Starborn fire, the other ancient knowledge. Outside, the ship's alert system flickered. A new message had arrived encoded in Lumerian royal encryption. Anera opened it, and a lifeless voice filled the chamber. Princess Anera Elfira, you are hereby summoned to the High Court. You are to present the human anomaly immediately. Non-compliance will be considered an act of betrayal against the Lumerian crown. A moment passed. Neither moved. They're going to execute me, aren't they? Samuel asked flatly. Put me in some vault next to extinct tech and pretend I never happened. They don't understand you, Anera said. They only understand bloodlines, chains of power, and who gets to sit on what throne. He shook his head. You're one of them. You're part of that whole mess. Why are you even helping me? Anera paused, her expression torn between royal upbringing and something more human. Because you changed something in me, she said honestly. Then, because when you put on that armor, you didn't become a conqueror or a god. You were still you. Confused, sarcastic, stubborn, but good. Braver than you know. Samuel leaned forward. So now what? Do you stand with me, or walk me into the council yourself? Silence. Then Anera said the words that sealed her path. I was born into the laws of Lumeria, taught to serve the Empire. But no law, no crown, no tradition matters more than the truth. She stepped closer. And you, Samuel ... You are the truth. You're the intersection of two destinies. Not as a weapon, not as a symbol, but as the bridge. He swallowed hard. You're talking like we have a chance. She smiled sadly. We don't, but we're going anyway. Samuel stood. What happens if we face that high court and they refuse to listen? We make them listen. Outside, warships hovered. The royal guards had begun tracing the trajectory of Anera's vessel. A countdown was already ticking. But inside that small ship, a bond had been forged, not between kingdoms, but between souls. She looked at him. You ready? He nodded. Then remember this, she whispered. In all the history I've studied, and stories I've been told, no truth ever changed the world by asking for permission. They joined hands, one armored in alien alloy, the other warm with human blood, and somewhere between Earth and Lumeria, in the silence of space. Truth prepared for war. The Lumerian High Court was not a room. It was a cathedral carved into a floating crystal, suspended in the ionosphere between planets. It pulsed with ancient magic and law, with time itself woven into the stone. 12 elders sat on thrones that were older than any Earth civilization. Behind them floated the Eye, a sentient orb of judgment that recorded everything exactly as it unfolded, free of lies, and now standing at its center was Samuel Anera, was cold, weighed down by centuries of rulings, convictions, and bloodless executions. The eldest of the High Seers rose. His eyes glowed with cosmic fire. You, human, have activated a relic of war bound by sacred code. You've awakened a prophecy long suppressed. Who gave you the right? Samuel's voice didn't shake. No one gave it. I am it. He didn't. Understand how those words came to him. They weren't arrogance, they were instinct. The armor around his body responded, slowly, silently, glowing brighter, shifting with celestial patterns that no Lumerian had seen in millennia. You threaten the balance, another elder said. You disrupt thousands of years of peace. Peace built on denial, Anera snapped back. Lumerians made a pact with silence. They buried the truth that humans and Lumerians were once one, that our bloodlines split, but our stories never did. This is blasphemy. This is history, Samuel said, stepping forward. Suddenly, the Eye reacted. A flash, a ripple of energy. Genetic convergence confirmed. It echoed in a voice made of time itself. Subject for 7A is neither outsider nor intruder, but heir. The chamber went silent, and for the first time in eons, the elders looked unsure. But then, a shadow moved. From beyond the thrones, through a crack in the wall that hadn't been there before, a void stepped out, tall, skeletal, cloaked in starless energy. Finally, it hissed. The lock has broken. The creature was not Lumerian, nor human. It was older than both. Who are you? Anera asked. It smiled without lips. I am the Reclaimer, the failsafe built into your bloodlines. When truth awakens, I return to erase it. Samuel's armor pulsed violently, not in fear, but in recognition. You're the one they were hiding, Samuel whispered. The reason they built the armor in the first place. The High Seers trembled. It was never just protection. It was a prison key. The Reclaimer raised a clawed hand. Space around it bent. The elders screamed. I am the end of memory, it declared. Before it could strike, Samuel stepped forward. His hands rose instinctively, the runes flared, and the armor began to transform. Anera stared in awe. "It's evolving," Samuel's voice changed deeper, older, layered with voices long gone. "No," he said, "it's waking up." The armor broke open behind him into two glowing wings, light and shadow, spinning like galaxies. Symbols arced across the court's walls. The eye hovered closer. It spoke one final line. Final protocol engaged. The heir of two worlds may invoke the trial of becoming. Everything in the high court shattered into starlight. Final battle, the becoming Samuel and the reclaimer, clashed mid-air above the crystal throne, locked in a battle of wills and origins. Light versus void, memory versus oblivion, but none were strong enough to stop what had already begun. Anera reached out psychically, feeding Samuel her energy across their link. "You're not alone. Every experience, every book Samuel read, every dream he'd ever had, every question that never fit, surged into a single point of focus. Armor, respond," he whispered. "Not to what I am, but who I choose to be." The armor changed again, now bearing Earth and Lumerian symbols combined. He was no longer the key from a prophecy. He was the writer of the next chapter. The reclaimer lunged one last time, but Samuel's sword wasn't forged from steel. It was made of truth, and truth cannot be erased with a final burst of impossible energy. Like the breath of stars being exhaled, Samuel struck. The reclaimer collapsed into ash, and its scream vanished into the void between galaxies. Epilogue: a new chapter begins. The council no longer ruled alone. Earth and Lumeria signed a new bond, one with Samuel at its center, not as ruler, but as messenger he refused to crown. He chose the bridge. Anera stood beside him, partner, protector, and proof that destiny was not inherited. It was forged. Children on both worlds would grow up hearing stories, not of conquerors, but of the day. Two souls rewrote fate, wearing armor from forgotten stars, and hearts that chose truth over power, because the armor had only been the beginning. The real power was in believing who you are matters more than where you're from.